detectors of almost pure silver do not contain PCBs. So they took all the good stuff, but left me with just the test equipment. But they did not take all the documents of the experiments or all the videos I have of the experiments. These they did not find. Or all metal samples. I have all these.
Yes, I have to explain.
Mm-hmm.
What are the other effects except floating the objects?
With the Hutchison effect, besides levitation, is metal samples will break apart. Metal samples will transmutation. There will be samples that will turn transparent, analyzed by the Canadian government showing that they were transparent, written in their own handwriting. Magnetic copper, which copper is not magnetic. Other samples going within other samples, as wood will go into, let's say, a block of aluminium, or a stainless steel sample will go inside a block of aluminium. And some of the samples have been analyzed, showing that in Germany. And I actually brought with me this evening some of these other samples that have not been analyzed yet, with wood and other metals mixed in, and also internal pressures inside that would expand them out. Not explosions, not conventional physics, but a very exotic type of science that works on time and gravitons. And would be classified as interdimensional physics and subatomic particles physics.
Many people doesn't believe still. Is it really true?
Only we know about that. The samples being teleported?
The Philadelphia?
Oh, there's a big debate on that, but it's most likely that it did take place. Because we had, in our laboratory, we had samples on Mini-8 film, not video, Mini-8 film that turned transparent and showed the same effects as some of the Philadelphia experiment after MATS. And we've had things like the nails going through walls that were photographed as if they were floating through the walls. But as hardcore evidence, we only have samples with wood teleporting inside them, and a knife, and other samples that were analyzed by my colleagues in Toronto and in Germany and Los Alamos, showing that it's very similar to that. There are other scientists who like to comment on the Philadelphia experiment. In the United States, the government is loosening up more and releasing such things as UFO documentations. Just 4 weeks ago, I received 1,000 reports on UFOs through the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency in McLean, Virginia. And I have a large stack of papers, so there's a lot going on in different areas around the world and that. So, but teleportation, it's not surprising to me. I thought this happened on many occasions, and even with some hardcore evidence that I'm happy with.
experience? Is it certificated by a scientific way in other researchers?
Teleportation or
Yes.
transportation?
どっちトランスポーテーション、テレポーテーション。
どっちが
How is it different?
Well, teleportation, okay, transportation is when you've developed a new form of energy, such as a graviton wave, that Los Alamos is looking at on a different level, where actually you can have under a large object an anti-gravitational field. The particles are thus reversed. And this field can make things light, similar to antimatter. If you have antimatter, you have the antimatter material actually being lighter because of graviton waves. So for transportation, they would basically revolutionize transportation and do away with the old rocket system, where you need tons of rocket fuel to blast off a rocket, whereas with a graviton generator or a time generator working together, have a new type of propulsion. Now, there's many people all around the world thinking about this now. And usually in history it's shown that when people start thinking about all these different kinds of technologies, it's free energy and anti-gravitational waves and that this eventually will happen. This eventually will happen somewhere. That you'll have a new form of energy and that you'll have a new form of transportation. As you know, we used to have the horse. Now we have the car, and then have an airplane, and eventually perhaps an anti-gravitational vehicle. And I see no problems in that. It's just that people have to look at it in a good, precise, clear technical way to see the problems and the solutions in such a technology.
But how do you certificate by a scientific way?
Certificate?
Yes. We can't, everybody can't believe that happens.
No. The reporter that reported the Wright brothers taking off with their heavier than air aircraft, he was fired. Because they didn't believe him. And nobody believed that could happen. Or nobody would believe in radio transmission. It's silly to think of that a person could talk in a microphone into a box and then you could hear that on the other side of the world. That was ridiculous. Couldn't happen. So it's the same situation with myself and many others compared to the early pioneers.
Because science believe too?
I'm sorry?
The scientists believe too?
The scientists that I know believe that, yes. And the scientists that I know are in very high positions in the U.S. government. And they're working on very exotic things such as psychotronics and also mind over matter. These people are working quite hard at that, and actually almost every university has a program on that, such as PK, mind and matter at a distance. That's very well known in the United States and in Europe. And I think in Japan there's a small movement with the Japanese Psychotronic Association and the Japan Gravity Laboratories. Dr. Sheik, I believe his name is. And in the psychotronic department, So you have a Japanese gravity laboratory and also a Japanese Psychotronic Association.
科学者で信じてきている人もいる、で証明されたとまでは言ってないけどね。ででもアメリカではその大学でそういったことを研究するなんか
1年
What's the relation between the Hutchison effect and free energy?
It's almost as one. With 400 to 4,000 watts, what we get in effects is in the range of terawatts of power at a distance. And I'm in the process now actually of developing on my own the free energy device principle that would only give a few milliwatts of power and maybe operate a small motor or a light bulb. But it would be all solid state. It would be very small and no moving parts, no areas. And it would be shown to investors who could take it, look at it, and x-ray it to make sure that there's no hidden batteries in it. And it can be demonstrated to anybody who's interested in this kind of technology. So that's the free energy. I've built free energy devices before, since 1965. And in those days, they were for my own personal use.
How do you feel? How did you feel? You said that you felt the free energy.
I felt the free energy?
Yes, you said you feel the free energy in 1965.
Oh, no, I built.
You built.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. You built.
Oh, goodness grief. Yes, no, I built. Started building them in that time period. And I used them for my own personal use, meaning that I could operate radios and that with these machines. But at that time, I didn't think they were important until I was brought out in the scientific community by the scientific group in Toronto and by the U.S. government and also by Alex Pizarro, who was a businessman in 1979, put me into the scientific world. And that's when we did many demonstrations and up to, I think, $4 million in sample analysis and flights, aircraft flights, and consultations and many other things. So it was quite a time.
So the Hutchison effect and free energy is only one.
It's one. We've had our laboratory at one time run itself. I mean, we'd laugh at each other as scientists when we're running this for the U.S. government because we'd say nobody would believe us. So we had all the plugs pulled out of the wall, but the gravitation machine was still operating even when I was throwing this main switches. And Alex would say, well, throw it again, throw the switch again. And I did. And the power levels seemed to increase. And we did this, but throwing the switches, at least, I think perhaps 50 times. And I said, Alex, look, I'm not going to do this anymore. This thing's going to blow this building right apart. I don't want any part of it. I'm getting kind of nervous. Let's leave it alone. So we decided to leave it alone and walk away from it. And yet in the morning, the next morning, with the government guys, we started again. We wanted to check to see if it did the same effect, but it didn't. So we plugged it back into the wall and turned it on, and it was doing its normal demonstrational work.
Why didn't it work when the government people came?
Well, this is a Star Wars, for one of the first Star Wars until just a little later on. But I was told at that time that my lab was moved out of my own place where I was living to a large 100 feet by 100 feet building. With a huge thing, and the lab was enclosed in a section here. Los Alamos had their camera equipment here and monitors, and along here, and they had a camera on me, and the camera this way, and the camera up this way on the top part of the building. But I didn't know. They said to me, John, how would you feel if another country had the same technology and you didn't do anything to help us? How would you feel if they came over and started going right into the United States? So I had to make my decision. I said, okay, I'll do it. But unfortunately, they classified it after the 4 months time period, and I only got responses in 1992 through the Freedom of Information Act, and some slides that were taken by Los Alamos and by U.S. Army Intelligence, which I sent to a gentleman in Tokyo for the publication of this book, and the original McDonnell Douglas report for the publication of this book, which I'm still after him to give them to me, because a lieutenant colonel went to a lot of trouble to deliver these special slides to me, and they're very valuable to me. And it's very delicate for him too, because he gets in a lot of trouble. But he now is working in science at Los Alamos as chief section head. So, but I do not want to mention his name, because his career is going very, very good, and he's being nominated by the Clinton administration in the Defense Department. So I shouldn't really mention his name at this time right now. But I think more in the lines of ecological systems now. But it is good to have friends that are not your enemies too in Washington. And I don't have any enemies, really. Never been threatened and never been bothered by anybody. I've actually been encouraged by scientists.
Why can the Hutchison effect, can I explain by the modern physics?
Modern physics is too old and too conventional. It's very rigid and can't really be explained except only by the new age physicists that are now out. The old-timers, they could not explain it, and it's written in the books. But such people as Vallée of France, Rocher, Houck of McDonnell Douglas, and many others have theories, and I've known now perhaps hundreds who have different theories. But it's interesting to note that the theories are very similar when I read them. They're very similar in theme, but they may be out of it, but they're very, very similar in theme. So I'm confident with all the different theories that perhaps even a mathematical model will be made up on it. And a new generation of equipment may come out to allow for perhaps a demonstration of a very, very tiny effect on very low level power. That would be the breakthrough, that would be the key way in. But the key way in is working its way in now. I mean, there's so many people going into it.
物理学は古いと。で、その時にも証明されつつある。
大事なところだと思うんで、だけど出たり入ったりノイズが入ったんで、一回ちょっと止めました。
there was kind of noise in it.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is that why can Hutchison effect cannot explain in modern physics?
Okay, because modern physics is very narrow-minded, extremely narrow-minded. But it can perhaps be explained in more modern physics by great thinkers such as René Louis Vallée of France and Rauscher and many other very, very bright scientists that understand what forces are at work here. And when there are many different theories that seem to be always the same, that's a very strong indication that something will be congealed perhaps into a mathematical model, which I feel confident in. And I've been offered jobs all over the world to go and work with such physicists to bring together a mathematical model. And the newest breakthroughs at Stanford University and at Los Alamos and many other laboratories seem to point more and more towards this new technology.
So it's coming near.
It is coming near. I feel very confident it's coming near, and also so many people all over the world working on free energy projects at different types of levels, of course. It will come. Just like the Wright brothers aircraft came. So I was kind of happy to put a little bit of input into it.
じゃあ次にね、そういう時代的な要請に自分の研究あるいは
What do you think the meaning of this free energy in this period?
The meaning of the free energy in this period is going to eliminate, number one, all the fossil fuels, because cars won't be held down by gravity forces from the Earth. Free energy can be transmitted around the world. It can be used to capture gravitational waves and amplified to power houses. Basically, it's going to be the salvation of our planet, because if we don't do anything, and we're going to build more atomic reactors, we don't know what to do with the atomic waste. We can't dump it out into space because we haven't got the rockets to do it. And when we fire the rockets off to do it, we're polluting the atmosphere anyway. And it is a breakthrough that is a race between what I'm doing and many others are doing and what Mother Nature is trying to compensate our mess. Because once the balance is tipped, it's too late. The global warming will happen, the acid rains will happen, the geomagnetic field could reverse over. All this can be laughed at, but something's got to be done, or Mother Nature is just going to say, too late. And all the indicators from NASA and the advanced departments in Washington, D.C. show these great dangers. And I believe this is common news on news programs. The more forests that are cut down, the less oxygen supply. The ozone depletion, many, many things, many details I can go into.
Long talk, John. What else do I have here? Anti-gravity. I don't know what that is. Oh, let's see. Let's turn this off.